It's an elevation. You'll recall that yesterday I served to introduce our guest speakers, and the program director yesterday noted that he is still a program director in one city, and he felt perhaps to elevate the second day of the FML research days, he needed to step up a bit. And he said, no, Prof, I understand that you've done this thing as a program director in a city, in cities, nationally and internationally. So then he asked that, Prof, could you be our international program director on the second day? I agreed. I deserve a round of applause for that. I wish to recognize our council members who are in the midst, Advocate Bongo and Mr. Rachidi, and also the university executives. I could see Professor Madaje, and I wish also to recognize the leaders of the different divisions within the university, and also recognize all external stakeholders and invited guests. I was informed that we're still live streaming, and I should also acknowledge our guests that are participating online. So this was more like a good morning to all, and I will be the program director for today. We shall continue as per the format of yesterday. When we get to the presentations of the papers, I will be handing over this role to session chairs. We now actually want also to request our DVC, Teaching and Learning, Professor Madaje, to welcome us on the second day, and so that we can be free. If there are dogs outside, you will be able to tell us whether they are being clapped or put somewhere so that we could move freely. Professor Madaje, may you kindly come and welcome the participants.
Program Director, Prof. Mokoena, the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Mokhalong, the DVC for Research, Innovation and Partnerships, Professor Singh, Council members who are present today, Mr. Rachidi, as well as Advocate Bongo. They are seated in front for those who may not be familiar with them. The Executive Dean of the Faculty of Management and Law, Prof. Sibanda, and all his directors of school, the organizing committee of the research day, and the leadership of Prof. Sitati, honorable guests. I'm not sure whether they have already arrived. I haven't seen them as yet, but I trust we shall be informed accordingly. Honorable Justice Muchumi, as well as the former Auditor General of South Africa, Mr. Nombembe, academics, heads of department, support staff, and of course our important stakeholders for the day, the presenters, honors, masters, and doctoral students. Not forgetting support staff like administrators. We simply say secretaries, but we know they belong to different divisions. They too, we would like to acknowledge their presence. Ladies and gentlemen, and of course, not forgetting our colleagues from marketing and communication who have been so dedicated throughout. They are in front here dealing with ICT equipment so that we become visible all over the world, as it were. Program Director, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Prof. Mokgalong, it's indeed a great honor for the University of Limpopo to host a conference of this nature. And for that reason, then we would like to welcome all of you to this august conference in the Faculty of Management and Law. Our special word of welcome goes to Honorable Justice Muchumi, Mr. Nombembe, the former Auditor General, our council representatives today, Mr. Rachidi, as well as Advocate Bongo. You can see practically that the council is interested in what you are doing. For those who may not be aware, council is the most top structure of any university in the country. They are our parents and managers. And by their presence, you can see that they want to see you also doing very well. And they will also like to extend our thanks right away to the guests. And we know they are extremely busy. But they said we have been invited and there is a duty to fulfill by going to University of Limpopo and interact with researchers who are very young, all of them. So it's a patriotic duty that they are going to fulfill. And we as the university are therefore highly grateful for their presence, and we therefore look forward to their presentations. Now, coming to our most important stakeholders, our students, our presenters, and I've seen, I'm a parent also, some of them are very young, very, very young. And I could sense that some are like fearful that am I going to be able to present my paper here? Yes, you are going to be able to do it. Tell yourself, I don't want to repeat what we said yesterday, but you can revise it a bit and say, I'm going to do my best. Can we all say that as students? I'm going to do my best. Can we repeat it again?
I'm going to do my best.
Thanks very much. So there's nothing to fear. Come to the fore as long as you do your best, and things will pan out all right. One of the stakeholders that we often forget to thank are the supervisors. We would like to thank all supervisors for assisting our potential researchers, as it were. And I know how difficult it is to be a supervisor. You also become a parent, you become a counselor, you become everything. And you have to correct sometimes sentence by sentence. Sometimes you have to tell your students, difficult as it might be, that go and change this paragraph, go and adopt this new theoretical framework. Sometimes you tell your students that your problem statement is not well conceptualized. Could you go and revise it in this way and that way? And that is being a supervisor. It's not easy. Therefore, we are highly grateful for the good work that we are doing, and we can only urge you to keep it up. Well, I'm not here to give a long speech, but to thank you, all of you, right away, and to welcome all of you from all stakeholders. I may not have mentioned you by name, but please know that we do acknowledge and appreciate your presence. And on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the University of Limpopo, of course, we are going to be enriched and empowered by your participating in a conference of this nature. With these very few words, all of you please feel welcome, and I trust we are going to have a successful day. And lastly, I go back to our presenters. Can we say it again? I'm going to do my best.
I'm going to do my best.
Program Director, I thank you.
You cannot make a joke about this. It's some benefits of reading too much. So in most cases, the people who read too much, you identify them with certain traits. At least with me, I'm identifiable with my height. And I'm proud about it. But Professor Madaje, thank you very much for these kind words of welcome. And what I liked from it is towards the end, where you motivated our speakers. You encouraged them. You indicated to them that they should not doubt themselves, which means then, if I may actually put it in my own words, you are the expert of your own work that you've done through the assistance of your supervisors. I think he deserves a better round of applause than that. Thank you, Prof. You also saved me, because as I was opening day 2, I forgot to acknowledge the presence of the faculty or the management of the faculty. At least now I'm safe, and Prof. Sibanda is not going to take any offense from that. But on a very serious note, I must say, as a University of Limpopo, we are really, really privileged and blessed. We are being led, and our leaders always do come and actually be part of whatever that we are doing. This reminds me what an author by the name of Joe Jaworski said, and I quote, "Before you lead others, before Well, thank you. They're just sorting out something else, and pardon us for that. I'll go back to my quote. I quote, "Before you lead others, before you can help others, you have to discover yourself." I close quote. So I'm trying to say with these words, these words attest to the fact that the leadership that we have at the University of Limpopo, before it started leading, it actually helped a lot of people, and then it realized and discovered itself, and hence they are leading in this different way. Let's give them a round of applause once more. Professor S. Koma to introduce our speaker of the day. But before I do that, I want to indicate to this August sitting that both speakers could not make it physically to come and be with us here. They will be presenting online. Professor Koma. Let's encourage him, please.
Sure. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Through you, Program Director, it is a great honor to introduce our guest speaker of the day, Honorable Justice B.C. Muchumi, currently serving as a sitting judge of the Supreme Court of Appeal since 2016. Her illustrious legal career spans her tenure as acting judge of the Free State High Court, acting in the Labor Appeal Court and the Competition Appeal Court. She's an internationalist and thus participates in several international fora and bodies, focusing on issues related to curriculum development, cross-border family agreements, and the Hague Convention matters. She holds law qualifications comprising of the Bachelor of Laws and Master of Laws, specializing in family law from universities of Zululand, the Northwest, and the University of South Africa. Honorable Justice, I learned you joining us virtually. We are pleased to have you, and the podium is yours. Over to you, Justice. I hope she's connected. Thanks. I'm done.
Faculty of Management and Law, particularly the professors, the lecturers, the support staff, the students, representative council, and my fellow speakers. It's unfortunate, as I said, that I could not join you in person, as courts across the country are still in session, as you would know, as professors of law. And I see Mr. Nombembe is also in attendance. I don't know him personally, but I know he used to tell us how much we can spend and how much we shouldn't. But be that as it may, thank you for the invitation to speak today. The leadership, particularly Professor Sibanda, gave me heart. And I chose one which touches an important aspect of our lives, our society, and country. Violence based on gender. In our country, women and young girls. Gender-based violence and the failure by all sections of society to effectively address it has become topical in South Africa, but also more striking and worrisome for any young woman in higher learning institutions which are supposed to produce leaders of tomorrow, and those who aspire to join higher learning institutions. Gender-based violence happens everywhere, in our homes, primary and secondary schools, and in tertiary institutions, as you know. Across the roads of universities after hours, somewhat which seems to entitle universities to claim that the incident did not happen on campus, thus they should not be held accountable when these incidents happen outside the campuses. You would know that it has been 4 years since Uinene Mkhetwana was murdered death, which points to violence in higher learning institutions, was highlighted during August thanks to the UCT former VC Professor Mamuketi in collaboration with Winene Foundation. There have been other initiatives. Next movement. This is a gender-based violence movement launched as an online or digital activist action at first. There is no particular selection or recruitment needed for this digital activist and social hashtag movement. Instead, the hashtag I am next South Africans to come together and declare a state of emergency in relation to the government's lack of failure, in fact, to protect women without proper consequences. Of community and non-governmental organization initiatives to make this simple point that these are initiatives outside tertiary institutions, perhaps fueled by demonstrations by students, the case of Uinene's murder and rape. But I'm informed by esteemed academics that I'm amidst Professor Whom Executive did with us today that for us to say anything about anything, we must research the thing first, what it means, how it came about, in other words, its origin, what fits into its continued existence as part of there, and allow us to speak authoritatively on the issue. You would know from any dictionary, particularly the Oxford Dictionary, that it defines research as the systematic investigation into and study of in order to establish and reach new conclusions. In 2017, the violence and harassment on campuses is underreported for various reasons, including vague policies that leave the reporting process are clear. Lack of knowledge about existing policy, lack of trust victimized, reluctance to engage with processes seen to be lengthy and which offer inadequate support and protection to complaints. Feelings of confusion, guilt, and uncertainty over the incident, including self-blame, or concerns about possible complicity. I don't want to go into the long list, but you're aware of the policy. You can look at it later. But in addition, there's a narrative behind this policy. The narrative mentions the following structures and mechanisms which can also limit the effectiveness of responses is part of the problem. The fragmentation of responses across a range of university structures such as human resources, student affairs, legal offices, and equity and transformation unit can also result in them not communicating with each other, resulting in confusion over who to report to, as well as the follow-up of cases. Most such structures reported as under-resourced, having one person manage all processes. Personnel managing these processes may have received no training to do so. I'm certain you immediately, you can think of the security people that are on campus, whether they have received training or not, in addition to lacking institutional authority. But more generally, there might be confusion as to what constitutes sexual harassment and a lack of knowledge about the existence and content policy. Finally, universities are perceived as wishing to conceal or brush aside allegations of sexual harassment and, or for that matter, rape, in the attempt to protect the institution's reputation. I am raising this deliberately so that we begin to engage with these issues. My view is that this 2017 policy is one of the policies which the Department of Higher Learning and Higher Education has developed in its endeavors to curb gender-based violence on campus and make universities take responsibility for these occurrences. Apart from the white and green papers which preceded it, these have been established. However, these policies need to translate into effective change. In some universities, you'll find that there is a policy on sexual distinct difference, which because gender-based violence would include rape and other sexual offenses, as execution plan or program for such policies. Apart from the policy does not talk to gender-based violence specifically. Without any execution plan, we know the policies are as good as theory. The government's most current strategy is the 2020 Gender-Based Violence and Femicide National Strategic Plan that was developed by the Interim Steering, which was established in April 2019 after the historic presidential summit on gender-based violence in 2018. One of the writers, Joseph, in 2015 said, is influenced how successfully colleges and institutions is my question. Recently, Professor Sibanda reflected on the hosting of the inaugural post-school education and training on transforming mentalities summit by the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Bladin Zimande, on Tuesday, 29 August 2023. In his piece in the Daily Maverick that he writes regularly on, Professor Sibani proposed several ways to address gender-based violence. He proposes, amongst others, to government, the Ministry of Higher Education specifically, to look at, amongst other ways, to foster more dialogues and gender dynamics, gender-based violence, and safe spaces in changing the mindset of men and boys within post-school education and training sector. The mindset, in his view, and I'm sitting here, studied this extensively, is exacerbated by the patriarchal attitudes and practices which persists within South African higher education. Importantly, he opines, the ministry may follow models such as the Scotland Equally Safe National Delivery Plan, which provides a framework and references on what is working and references to implement policies on what is and then look at what is working in other countries. But I have embarked on the research with 2 university students of University of Cape Town, which I hope I'll do with you as soon as I find time. My issue is, why is gender-based violence happening under your watch as young people, as future lawyers, as academics, as leaders in all spheres of private and public institutions? Why are you not writing about Litabo? Litabo? Am I still there? Litabo?
Yes, you're still there.
Litabo. I was off for a bit. Can you hear me? Prof? Okay, I'm just saying, Prof. There are many professors, so all of you are implicated. Am I audible? Can I proceed? Okay. Yes, the question that I was posing was, why are you not writing about this as young people? Why are you complacent about this? Why must it be government and NGOs that do research, that march and are vocal at every given moment? Why must it be the Uyinene Foundation that takes this responsibility? Why do we not see campus campaigns which speak to gender-based violence openly, except on specific days? For me, campus-wide campaigns must provide a clear message about the intolerance of gender-based violence, the repercussions for students who violate relevant conduct norms, and the importance of speaking up. We know that apart from men being the sole cause of this societal disease, it is also perpetuated by women who are compromised by cultural standards and a patriarchal culture that still regards males as superior to women. And this can be traced back to historically established patriarchal systems and structures that have been in place for many years. We participate in those consciously or unconsciously. Forensic scientists collect, preserve, and analyze scientific evidence during the course of investigation. They tell us what makes a young man of 19 years kill his girlfriend by stabbing her over 18 times with a knife, drags her body and bury it in a shallow grave next to her home, where when to the world he seems and appears normal and does not tick all the boxes to be declared a psychopath. to give us in court a better understanding of criminals who commit the most heinous of crimes, to empower us to give appropriate sentences, whether life imprisonment or declaration of persons as dangerous persons. This research day creates a platform for you to know more about research and the different methodologies which you can adopt from well-placed people, professors that we are with today. And these are not ordinary professors, in my view, but our own people who speak our language, who were born in townships, villages, and share our background and experiences, who we can all go to assist us to research and find solutions for the fourth industrial revolution through effective governance, sustainable development, and leadership that they are creating. Even those that don't share the same background as us and you will give us their own perspective and experience to learn from. Their opportunity has been
Lost her, but she's still continuing from her side. So we'll see how to deal with that.
be to eradicate gender-based violence. I thank you, professors. I thank you, Professor Sibanda. I thank you, the faculty of the Faculty of Law. The other name is always complicated, for this opportunity to share this platform with you. And I wish you a successful engagement with the theme of this gathering. Thank you very much. Prof, I'm done.
Uh, 1, 2. The mic is not on, please. Thank you very much. I wish to extend our words of appreciation and thank you, Honorable Judge Mochumi, for this wonderful, provoking presentation, of which I must register to you that to a certain extent the connection was a little bit challenging, particularly towards the end of your presentation. But I must say we took note and cognizance of the critical part of your presentation, and indeed the topic that you decided to choose is a very critical one at this stage. And we believe that the contributions you made poses some challenges for us to take the GBV issue going forward. We as a university, we've been doing quite very well around that. We have measures in place and the policies, but I liked the way you put it, that to speak with authority, we must continue engage in research. And I think that also speaks to all of us in the room here. And as a result, as a faculty, we feel very encouraged that this kind of activities should stay on our faculty calendar going forward. Thank you so much. I think let's give the Honorable Judge a round of applause.
What I'll do, I'll just clean up what I was reading and send it to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah. Thank you. Without actually now taking much of your time, allow me to invite the director of the School of Accountancy, Mr. S. Muchambizi, to introduce our next speaker. Mr. Muchambizi, let's encourage him as he's ascending to the stage.
Program Director, and I observe all protocol. I will be introducing the next keynote speaker or the guest speaker, Mr. Terence Nombembe. Mr. Terence Nombembe studied at the University of the Transkei, where he completed a Bachelor of Commerce degree. He then went on to do an honors in accounting science, which we might call CTA or PGDA at the University of South Africa. He is a qualified chartered accountant, and in the year 2014, he was conferred an honorary doctorate degree in accounting science by the University of Walter Sisulu. His leadership roles include, amongst others, having been the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, SAICA, for a period of 4 years. That was from 2014 to 2018. Prior to joining SAICA, he served as the Auditor General of South Africa, or the AGSA in short, for a period of 7 years that stretched from 2006 to 2013. He also served in the capacity of Deputy Auditor General for a period of 6 years, from 2000 to 2006. He has also occupied other offices, including at Gobodo Incorporated Chartered Accountants South Africa, BP Southern Africa Limited, PTY Limited, Unilever South Africa Limited, where he specialized in external auditing, internal auditing, accounting, and also financial management. In the year 2018, all of us will remember the commission that was instituted, the Judicial Commission in the inquiry in state capture. So in that year, he also joined as one of the commissioners, where he was designated as the commission's head of investigations until the end of the commission in June 2022. Mr. Terence Nombembe currently serves as the chairman or the chairperson of the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council, GIAC, which provides independent oversight, advice, advocacy, and civil society mobilization in fighting corruption and promoting integrity and ethics in the Gauteng city region. Let me say to you, one thing that is at the bottom of all that we do as accountants is also the issue of ethics. That is why he's actually relevant in all that he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Terence Nombembe. I think you can see him, he's on the screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, colleague. I hope you can hear me. I'm also going to ask that Litabo, okay, I can see the presentations on the screen as well. I hope I am audible and clear enough. Let me take this opportunity to thank the university for inviting me also to be part of this important day, and acknowledge the governance structures of the universities, the principal and vice chancellor, the organizing committee of this event, naturally led by Prof. Sibanda and Prof. Setati, as well as their support team, the committee members of this event here, this day that we're having, the broad leadership of the university, the fellow guest speakers, the invited special guests of honor that are amongst you, the researchers, student leadership, and fellow students and student community at large. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have opted for this virtual platform because of the commitment I have had to honor at a family level. So my apologies for not being there in person. My intention was to be there in person initially. I have also structured the message for today in line with the topic that I was given, which is finding solutions through effective governance, sustainable development, and leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. And in doing so, I have structured this message in two parts. One, just to give a sense of what the overview of the current reality that we're facing that needs to be researched, and researched quite thoroughly and consistently. What that current reality is, as well as the challenges that underpin the current reality that we face. Secondly, I will just touch briefly on the elevated opportunities that the researchers have at their disposal in order to really sustain and institutionalize the research discipline that is so needed in our country. In the next slide, I'm sure the first part of what I'm going to refer to, anecdotally, the National Development Plan, you may have researched it extensively in the past and still doing so. But there's a particular perspective I just want to raise, why this blueprint is important never to actually lose sight of until we can see the needle shifting on matters that it was meant to accomplish as part of sustainable outcomes for our country. There's another piece of work that was done by the high-level panel that was commissioned by the Speakers Forum on the impact of legislation, building on the report that the National Development Plan 5-year review presented to Parliament. So those are the two reference points I just want us to look into as part of my session today. That's the National Development Plan, and if you can go to the next slide, that's what I just want to touch on. With regard to the National Development Plan, which is our blueprint in the country, I think it's important to reflect on the fact that it is a blueprint that we can least afford to ignore. We just cannot ignore this blueprint because it's there with a noble purpose of reversing the legacy of apartheid. and also dealing with the issues of poverty. In other words, eliminating poverty, making sure that issues of indecent living standards are eliminated. I think our runway is getting short when it comes to this, because we basically left with literally 7 years to achieve what this document that was there in 2012 was meant to accomplish. It's also important to take note of the fact that this is quite a bulky document. That's why I'm saying it is critical that we actually stay on it until its impact is seen and its impact is actually visible, and the lived experience of our communities begin to emerge. 70 pages of executive summary, close to 500 pages of a good document is something really that we can work on continuously without ceasing. There are a couple of pillars that the NDP is actually underpinned by. I'm not going to necessarily talk about those. I've basically highlighted them there in bold. But what I want to touch on is the issue relating to what this document was meant to be done with in terms of its order. It was meant to bring about clear alignment when it comes to the long-term plans of government and the policies of the departments and the state at large. But above all, to make sure that the budget allocations are informed by these long-term plans. And thirdly, that any monitoring that is done in this regard is actually evidence-based and based on the lived experience of the communities. I mean, I was listening to radio as I was coming to this session, listening to the debate about the fact that balancing the budget for the state is something that is beginning to become a challenge in South Africa. We've got something like this blueprint that was meant never to actually South Africa to see that kind of a reality facing us. So that's why I'm saying research on these implementation plans and alignment that the NDP was meant to accomplish, we really cannot take our eyes off this thing. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have deepened fault lines in the way the country is going. And at a leadership level, it was really meant to be owned not only at a community level or society level in partnership with society, but also at a presidential level, at a deputy presidential level, premiership level, as well as at a mayoral level. So those are the issues I just wanted to highlight. I know it's a 500 plus, close to 500 page document, but I think these are cornerstones of why this document actually needs to be taken seriously. And a part of this document is these elements of decent living standards, which I just want to put to you simply to just demonstrate that there is no shortage of areas to actually research when it comes to improving living standard and reversing the legacy of apartheid. The next slide reflects some of the known structural defects that we have, despite the existence of the blueprint. I think all the things that are listed there, from the economic growth, everything seems to be going south. I'm not here disregarding some of the benefits that are evident as a result of the presence of the NDP. For instance, the life expectancies have improved, there are more children in school, there's more people with electricity, etc., and water, etc. But generally, the fundamentals are actually not proving to actually go in the right direction. So middle class that is actually having very low levels of savings. You can't have a country that grows without a saving culture. concentration of wealth to the hands of a few people. So the whole issue of wealth creation for the broader community is still a challenge. Levels of unemployment, particularly amongst youth, all these are actually known anecdotes, but it doesn't help for us in South Africa to talk about these things. What's important is to find solutions for these matters. Growth levels of inequality, poverty, which was meant to be actually be reversed by this very same blueprint that was established by the learned and very, very resourceful people that were commissioners. Above all, the levels of corruption and that are basically unbearable. And if you look at the national anti-corruption strategy is meant to address this. If you look at the report of the Zondo Commission, which you all know about, it was also meant to deal with these issues. So there's no shortage of areas that can be researched in order for us to really shift the needle when it comes to the areas of our that are challenges to us. Next slide. That's just the image of if you Google the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, you'll find it's got that kind of image, as well as the report of the Zondo Commission. It's got one of the famous logos that South Africa has been accustomed to. So those are the issues that I just wanted to flag. This is another important, particularly I would imagine not only for the faculty at large, but particularly for the legal division of the faculty. But this is not confined to the lawyers only, but this high-level panel report, which was chaired by former President Motlanthe, is something, if you have not seen it, I would really encourage you to actually have a look at, because it's a report that was quite instructive in terms of its findings. If we move to the next slide, I've also got a few anecdotes there. It was meant to accomplish. It's also quite a lengthy report, close to 600 pages long. The executive summary, that's about 40 pages. The report was there in 2017. Also aligned to the issues of the National Development Plan in terms of what it sought to accomplish, but with a unique feature of looking at the effect of the legislation in reversing these issues that were prevalent, or encouraging the sustainability of these ideals, which were basically eliminating poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and equitable distribution of wealth, issues of land, and issues of social cohesion and nation building, some of which the justice that has just spoken has also spoken about. This just indicates how much vast areas of research could be for us to have a better society. And with regard to the recommendations of this, I think it's important to highlight these recommendations that, there were recommendations there that were quite telling in terms of the ways to improve the quality of implementation of legislation on all the thematic areas of this report. And also working in collaboration with the executive as well as Chapter 9 institutions in making sure that these recommendations are implemented. But of critical importance was the identification of gaps in the policy making and legislation on what the report considered to be overarching priority laws relating to issues of funding and the capacity of the state, issues of anti-corruption, issues of the role of parliament. You've heard about this also in the State Capture Commission. Issues of the National Development Plan. Strikingly, this report is very clear about the fact that noble as the NDP is, there is no legislation that actually governs its implementation and actually gives the elevated status of the NDP as something that would basically be a blueprint for the country to transform the country. And to this day, no legislation that actually does this, despite the fact that this report was presented in 2017 in Parliament. and also the issue of the electoral system. You recall that the Slabat Commission, which was commissioned by Cabinet many years ago, spoke about the electoral system. This report by Mutlante spoke about this. Judge Zondo also in his report speaks about this matter. So these are sticky issues that have not yet been implemented, and therefore research is important to actually make an influence in actually attending to and acting on some of these issues. Highly recommended material to actually look at that I would actually flag for the conference. Part B, I will go through it very quickly because my time is basically up. But here I just want to share a few opportunities that researchers could consider really to take research to the next level that will actually make this needle to shift. If you can move on to the next slide. There's a question here, which I've answered it with a yes at the end. Whether or not the researchers have, and I include myself in this space, the ability to inspire hope in a hopeless situation that I've just painted. And I'm not being alarmist, colleagues, by any stretch of imagination, because society needs to benefit from the work that we do as researchers, using multiple levels of insights and blueprints that have been presented to us. Next slide, please. The first thing we need to do is to elevate our vision in defining the purpose of research. Many times, I think, as institutions of higher learning, we tend to do research for accreditation purposes, those that need to be accredited, or for ranking purposes, those that have got ambitions to be ranked higher in terms of who they are in the academic circles. However, I think research, we need to take it to another level of integration to the economic and societal realities that I've just described with these two documents that are presented. And I've listed there those opportunities really. There's no shortage of areas that we could consider if you just look at the NDP. Justice, I'm sure even yesterday you've had numerous topics that point to the fact that there's a lot to be researched in order to create opportunities for better society. Next slide, please. There's also opportunity here to institutionalize the capacity for research. What I've just highlighted there is opportunity. I know universities do have their own research wings, units, and capacity. It does help at times, and I say this because I sit on the board of what I think is a very effective research institute, the Africa Health Research Institute. It's a science research, but what I see in that institute, for me, is mind-boggling. I'm not a scientist, but I can see governance structures that are really effective. I can see advisory structures that basically influence science with real research and actually take science to the communities and make sure that people benefit from eliminating issues of HIV and AIDS, communicable diseases, even HIV, not on HIV, even COVID-19 when there was COVID. I mean, these scientists basically came up with groundbreaking outcomes and results when it came to this thing. This is about taking research rate and the interacting with the University of Zulu of KZN in doing this. So there's opportunities to find a collaboration with some of these non-profit, NPC basically stands for non-profit companies, or what is called foundations, for lack of a better word. So these governance structures, government can also be part of your partners to take research into implementation. You've just seen some of the support lines in government.
Well, you know, sometimes when you seems to be doing very well, somebody will be jealous somewhere. And you
All right,
know,
colleagues, I'm back. Colleagues, can I continue just on the phone? Just to finish off quickly. Can I just continue just to finish off quickly? I know my time is up. So this across university faculty connection helps us to just make sure that some of the effective research that's done by other sciences, faculties, engineering can be collaborated to present a broader kind of effective research for communities within your areas of location, and also regionally, locally, as well as globally. There's opportunities to share with other universities, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, I think the issue of technology cannot be underestimated here, which is the reference here to fourth industrial revolution. The ability to just do things on scale, I mean, that's what technology helps us to do, to be able to do things a lot more in a targeted way if you do want to do so, sorting and analyzing, being able to effectively track trends and patterns, and also be able to do things swiftly in terms of decisions where we need to bank on quick wins, quick diagnosis of the root causes of the challenges and problems and opportunities. And the list is endless, even looking at how we effectively collaborate and do advocacy work and mobilization of communities, resources with stakeholders, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an opportunity really for extended opportunities if we do look at technology as a tool, as an enabler. Not to mention the fact that even issues of funding can be provided quite easily when we actually are having effective governance structures, as well as areas of effectiveness in the way we do our work. And lastly, colleagues, I must say that the elevated vision, I do have the slide talking to this, each other that I can't connect to the last, but it's the last slide, Letabo. The elevated vision and effective operating models, which I just want to emphasize in doing our research, does enhance our reputation, image, sustainable development, and attracts funding that will help us to really have research that is impactful to society. And therefore, that's why I say, as researchers, we can really inspire hope in a hopeless situation for the benefit of our society. Those are just a few anecdotes I thought I could share. Sorry for the disruption in the power, but I hope this would be useful going forward. Thanks very much, colleagues. And thanks for the organizers.
can we give Mr. Nombembe a very deserving round of applause? I will not reiterate on what he said, but I think I should be doing justice by thanking him for, sharing the challenges that have got potential for us as a university, particularly the students, to add on the identified niche of research in the university. Mr. Nombembe, we want to thank you very much for taking time from your busy schedule to come and virtually so indeed to, share your thoughts around this particular topic. We really appreciate it, and indeed we take note the fact that you personally wanted to come, but because of other circumstances. The students and even the researchers in the room are going to grab the identified opportunities that you identified and see if they can take them further and be squeezed in, or rather put in as part of their research agendas. We appreciate the fact that you became so relevant by actually encouraging us to continue doing research and finding solutions for our country, Africa, and the world as such. We thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And all the best for the conference. I'm going to sign off. I've got another commitment at 10:30. I'm sorry, I cannot stay any longer.
Enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Colleagues, we are doing very well in terms of time. I will tell you why I'm saying that. It's because I took advantage of the fact that the next session has dropped 2 papers. So we are doing well, Mr. TVC, when it comes to time. And just perhaps a layout of, going forward from now. I will actually, after tea, or before we go to tea, let me remind you, we do have adjudicators in the room, and Prof. Sitate always says, I will not identify them, and I'm borrowing from his words. I will also not identify them for you. I just want you to give the best as per the welcome words during your presentation. But indeed, everyone wants to do the best. So give up the best shot throughout these 2 sessions that will be coming. Then we shall break for 15 minutes, not 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And when we come back, the first session chair is going to be Professor I.P. Mongale, and Prof. Mongale will then take us through until lunchtime. Then immediately after lunchtime, we'll actually monitor the time, and Professor T.S. Matsivandila, Ndabo Matsivandila, then they will take over and run the afternoon session. Then I will come back on the stage right at the end of the day. Go. Oh, don't I deserve it? Give me a round of applause. Well, the Prof is in a way apologizing for not putting a red shirt. Right, we breaking now. What's the time now? 10:25, and then we are back exactly 22. And please, colleagues, let's behave and be back exactly 22. Enjoy your tea.